Hey, welcome and join your blended family on a happy Monday.
Happy Monday.
I could even say hoppy Monday because it's getting a little closer to Easter time.
It
But
is.
today's topic is very relative to every married couple, every remarried couple out there. Yeah, so this one is not for little ears. This one is definitely for a remarried couple. And today we are talking all about sex, baby. We're talking about you and me. So we are
I would
talking.
have bet on it that you were going to sing that.
We're talking about sex. We're talking about sex.
I got several things in my head that I know are going to come out in this episode because
Probably
when his
so.
brain gets triggered, he just can't help
It
himself.
just goes, and yeah, sometimes you even sing it before I do now. You're like, oh yeah, I knew you were going there. But we are. This is one heavy topic, and the thing is it's so important, and yet we all can really have a lot of challenges making this happen and staying intimate, staying sexual in our marriage.
Yeah, before we were coming on, we usually pray before we start recording these podcasts, and as we're sitting here praying, and in my head, I'm thinking to myself, like, just for one, the funniness that when you're praying about sex, but I just had this moment of like, who are we to come on here and give sex advice to you guys? And God just quickly you are them. We are you. Like, we are not set apart in any kind of way, experts in this, bunnies hopping, like rabbits in the background, especially like in the season
Rabbits
of life
in the background.
of empty nester where you think like, it's just exploding all over the place. That was visual I wasn't going for. But you have these like thoughts of how much it should be, what it should look like. You hear in your 40s, it's your prime for women, and there's all these things, but then there's all this stuff coming against you in this time as well. And so every season, I think it has different complications and difficulties. And so who are we to bring you sex advice? We are just like you, going through the same things that you go through, and we're going to be real and honest with you today about some of the challenges that we've had over the years, some of the challenges that we still have now, and some ways that we really fight to overcome those.
Yeah, so we have a lot of tools that we've learned and that we try to implement. Sometimes we do really good, sometimes we don't. Yeah. But we're going to bring those and then some resources and stuff that have really been a benefit as well. So all that is coming up. So you stay tuned. This is going to be I was going to say a good one, but I was going to say a sexual one. But then I'm like, yeah, that's probably not the right term either. So I don't know, but we'll be back here in a minute. So we're back. We were
making out.
Yeah.
No, we weren't.
I mean, no, we
weren't.
Really weren't. But we are. So, this is, okay. We're going to get real. We really are. We're going to get real in this episode. We're going to talk about a lot of these challenges that we all face. And we're bringing this episode because we know how important it is that we continue growing intimately together, that we continue having more sex in our marriage. But we're also bringing this because we know of the challenges. I think we've been married 15 years now, coming up on 15 years remarried. And every year has been new seasons in life, even to the point of now we have entered into empty nesters. And this is the time to where it's like, oh man, we're going to have the house to ourselves. And man, it's just like, we're going to be like doing it like all the time. And like, it's just going to be like crazy. But
I think we did like 3 days in a row, and that was like a miracle.
That was like, yeah, but it doesn't, we're finding that there's even challenges now because we got a grandbaby in the mix. Now we're watching the grandbaby a whole lot more.
A lot until like 10 o'clock at night, and it's just been a long day at that point.
And so we're just exhausted. But so yeah, we're going to get really real and talk about some of these challenges. But first, I want to talk about the importance, right? Why is sex important in our marriage? And for us, we are Christians. We are believers in the Word of God, and and I think that's something in the church world that we don't talk a lot about. I think it's something as Christians we feel like, oh, shh, we shouldn't say anything about that. We don't talk about our sex life. And, I think in some parts, yes, right. We don't want to go airing out all of our stuff.
I air it all.
But we need things like this as well, so we all continue learning and growing together. Because if we all don't talk about it and we're all failing at it, then all it's doing is damaging our relationships, is damaging our marriages. And especially as being in a step family, we've come from divorce, which brings a whole lot of other challenges of us coming together and being intimate, that we have to be able to overcome if we want this marriage to work, because we all know that statistics are against us, right? Yeah. The statistics say that, your second marriage, extremely higher of a divorce rate than your first marriage, and it just increases every other marriage after that, because there becomes so many more challenges. And if we don't deal with it now, if we don't draw a line in the sand and say, I'm done, we're going to figure this thing out, then all we're doing is, going into another marriage with all the problems. And, it's just a trickle-down effect that we don't want. We don't want that for us. We don't want that for our kids. And why it's so important right now for us to talk about that is because sex and intimacy is kind of another form of glue that keeps us together. It keeps us as one, as a unified body, and it keeps us to where we are working together instead of working apart. So it really is important. But we always like going back to Scripture. And whenever we were kind of preparing for this episode and everything, I was like, man, I had this scripture in my head. So I was like, oh, where was that again? So, I'm doing my research and everything. And then I found it. And I'm like, yes, this was, I just really felt like this was the Holy Spirit kind of guiding me to that. And, but this is 1 Corinthians 7, 4 and 5. I'm reading it out of the Passion Translation real quick, just to give this to you, because I think this is one of those things that we have to keep going back to and reminding ourselves how important this is, right? If God says it's important, if God's word says it's important, we got to take it for heart and everything. Yeah. But there's some powerful stuff in here that we want to talk about for a minute. Before we dive into the hardships, the tools, and some of these resources that we've found that help. But it says here, neither the husband nor the wife have exclusive rights to their own bodies, but those rights are to be surrendered to the other. So we're supposed to actually surrender our bodies to the others. Like, here you go, baby. Here's my body. It's yours. You got this. And she's like, dang, that's what I got.
Yay. No, I'm just kidding.
Joy. And vice versa, right? She's supposed to come, hey, baby, here's your body. This is yours, right? So, we always like to really illustrate Scripture a little bit. But then in verse 5, it says this, and this is the powerful part. It says, so don't continue to refuse your spouse those rights, except perhaps by mutual agreement for a specified time so that you can both be devoted to prayer. And then it says, and then you should resume your physical pleasure so that the adversary, which the adversary here, we're talking about the enemy, right? The enemy, the devil, Satan, cannot take advantage of you because of the desires of your body. And so, whenever I hear that, it just really speaks to me, because the thing is saying we can't deny each other sex. We shouldn't. In a marriage, husband and wife, we should not deny each other sex. It should be a part of our thing, unless we both agree, say, hey, let's not for this, for this short period of time. It says just for a specified time, so that you can be devoted to prayer. Like if I'm refusing to give you sex,
you better be praying,
because I'm mad at you, that's not what it's saying here. It's like, dang, I'm in the wrong, right? Like, we shouldn't be. We got to get over this. That way we don't let that become a thing.
Well, and I think people focus a lot on the beginning scripture and take it and twist it and say, you have to have sex with me. That is your duty. Probably more men than women. So I just feel like we should speak on that just for a second. And that's not what the word is saying, and that's not the purpose behind it. It's this very bottom part of the scripture that is key, is that when we are denying the other, this God-created form of intimacy and love with your spouse, when we are putting that wall up and rejecting in that way, the enemy uses that to come in and cause more division and chaos. He wants to see you and your spouse angry at each other. He wants to break you apart. He knows how powerful you and your spouse are together. He knows how powerful a strong Christian family that's following the truth and what the word says. And so he looks for ways to come in. And we're going to give a whole lot of reasons, like their excuses, they're legit. Like, I mean, it's different stuff that happens in life, but we cannot just roll over in bed and say, no, not tonight, not tonight, not tonight, and let the enemy. Yes. And when we've joked about that in the past, where sometimes I'll hear Randall turn the TV off in the other room, and I'm like, oop, put the phone down, roll over, close my eyes like I'm already asleep. And we do these things, and we can't let that be our norm. Then, you know, every once in a while, there's these situations that come up, but we have to keep ourselves in check. And that's what the word is saying here.
Yeah, definitely. You know, it's not a forceful thing. It's not saying, you know, well, you're my wife, that's my body, I'm going to take it when I want it. That is not what we're talking about. That's not what Scripture's talking about. This is a mutual thing that we surrender to each other. This is a mutual thing. You know, we're coming together, and we know that it's important. And the crazy thing is that it's fun.
Yeah.
It's pleasurable.
Well, it should be.
It should be, right. Yeah, it should be. And whenever we're doing it in a healthy way, it really is. It unites us together, to whereas the enemy's trying to pull us apart. And it talks about us having, you know, our desires of your body. Our bodies were created for desiring sex, for desiring intimacy. And we talk on two different things, right? Sex is the actual coming together, right? But intimacy is even more. That's that emotional connection. That's us talking deeply. That's us sharing our inner thoughts, our desires, our, you know, life, our emotions, and connecting on that level along with a sexual level, right? So sex is kind of incorporated in intimacy.
Yeah, you can have intimacy and have actually like no active sex, and you can have
sex and no intimacy.
And have no intimacy. But when they come together, that's the sweet spot.
Yeah, and that's the beautiful part. And that's really what, you know, God has designed for us to connect on an emotional, physical level, right? So it's not just that, but even on a spiritual level. You know, we're connecting. Yeah. We're coming together as one. And if we're not actively doing that, we're not keeping that a priority, the Scripture tells us, you know, the enemy's tearing us apart. It's pulling us away because we still have those desires. And with those desires, if we're not focused inward with our physical desires, then it's got to go somewhere. That energy's got to go somewhere. Yeah. So normally that's when it starts turning outward, and we start looking to other forms to try to fill that physical desire. And that's even more damaging to our marriage. That's whenever we really start wedging apart. And
whether that be pornography or like the sexual books, romantic books, or it be like an actual other person. So there's these different ways that you can start turning towards other things.
And so basically the more and more you turn away and the more you look for it externally, the more you're pulling away from your partner and denying your partner of that. And it's like, you know, I'm trying to fill it over here, but the crazy thing is you never get filled, right? The way that we truly get fully filled is when we're together mutually working at this. That's why it's so important, right? Because if not, we're going to end up divorced again. We're going to be a wreck. We're dragging our kids through that again. To whereas if we really focus on this, then you're going to see a lot of beauty in that. And you're going to see healing to a lot of the blended family challenges. A lot of the challenges that we face, now we are united as one and we're facing them together instead of, you know, my way, your way, and trying to figure out, well, we're just trying to live in the same house together, right? So that's why this is so important. It is like a spiritual glue that is coming together. And whenever we're doing it right, it's a lot of fun and it's good stuff. But okay, so we know it's important, but what holds us back? I mean, what are the challenges that we face? Because even though we know this, right? Me and Scarlett, we've known this for, you know, a long time in our marriage and everything, but we still have challenges. I mean, we go through, I'm being honest, we go through dry spells, you know, and we'll go weeks, and sometimes we've even gone like a month or so, and it's like,
I don't know that it's ever got a whole month, but maybe like
it felt
3
like
weeks. Yeah, sometimes it'll be just a week, and he's like, it's been a month, and I'm like, it's been a week. Just
and I'm like, no, let's count days.
Yeah, so now instead of having sex, we're counting down. But if we were just to be like completely like, what does normal look like for us? I would say if it's once a week, we are winning.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's twice a week or 2 days in a row, we are like, heck yeah.
We have
like,
done something right
we're
in
dreamland.
life. Angels are opening up going, oh, and it's just a glorious week.
And then an average would probably be, I would say once a week is probably average.
Yeah,
and
about once a week.
If it gets to where it's every other week, we can feel it in our, just in our relationship with each other. Not that we're like getting angry with each other, but I don't know.
I think we focus on the negatives a lot more.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, we need to come together in this way. So that's us. It may be different for you, and I want us to get into the first one, and we touched just a bit of it, the reasons why we don't. And I think a lot of times is because it's not exciting. It becomes this routine thing. I know in the beginning when you join your families together or when you get married in a typical situation, you have this time without children. And so you have all this freedom to have sex whenever you want. And in a step family, when you come together, you're bringing children into it.
You're already a family formed.
And like when we came together, his daughter slept with him, and my kids slept with me. And so now, you know, we're having to figure out how to get these kids out of our bed and into their own bed so that we can have this alone time together. And then it comes to this, like, I don't know, you go through these seasons of where it just becomes like monotonous. And so I just wanted to talk for a second on if you don't talk about sex and if you do not have open conversations with your spouse, because we're not talking about it in the church. We're not talking about it in our homes. We're only getting our information from the television. And if we're not talking with our spouse about it, and you're coming together for sex and you're doing the same position in the same place every time, there are certain things that it just is not a turn on for women unless the men are really like working
hard.
The beforehand. I just forgot the word. What is it like when you're doing the stuff?
Foreplay.
The foreplay, yes.
Yeah.
So if he's doing all of that and getting you all worked up and stuff, but if not, and y'all just go straight into it, our bodies don't even always react to that, just the way that they were created. And so it's not as pleasurable where you have women faking it just to appease their husband. And that's not what it should be like. And so some of the things we're going to talk about here in just a little bit on sex should be exciting. And if you're not having conversations about it with your girlfriends or with the girls at church and with your spouse and discussing like, hey, I actually feel nothing when we're doing that. Like I feel you in and out, but I don't feel any pleasure. And he doesn't know that. So he thinks he's scoring because
hey, this is a win-win. This is working.
Yeah, because I'm making all the right sounds at the right time, And so if you're not being open about those things and saying, oh, I actually don't, really feel anything there, but when you do this, I do. And then that kind of builds him up of like,
oh, okay. Well, let me do more of that.
Yeah, I want to do more of that and less of this. But you don't know these things unless you're open and honest about it. So one of the main reasons is it's not exciting or you get into routine. It's kind of boring. And the solution is we start talking about it.
Yeah, definitely. And we've heard from a lot of sex experts because we follow a lot because we really got intrigued in this area. It's like, you know what? We are put here once in our life, right? We got one life to live. And, this is our marriage. We want this to be fruitful. We want this to be awesome. I want to have an awesome sex life. I mean, if this is something that's pleasurable, we both enjoy, let's figure this stuff out and let's just rock this thing and have a really good time at it, and make it healthy for our marriage. And so we followed a lot of sexual experts and things like that. And they always say that whenever you're trying to talk intimately or sharing positions. Hey, this felt good, that didn't. You're not doing it while having sex. You're doing this after things are already calmed down. It's like, hey, let's bring that up. What did you think about that position? What did you think about this? Or, and that's really the better times to start talking and sharing is whenever you're not like in the heat of the moment. Now, don't get me wrong. Sometimes whenever you're in the heat of the moment, you're like, do more of this, do more of that. Or, and being able to communicate that way is good. But, so yeah, there is being able to talk because it gets routine and routine gets boring. And, if we're not talking about it, then, and it's so routine, that's like you said, a turnoff. And then we're like, in our minds, if I'm being real, I'm sitting there going, oh yeah, I'm really, I would love to have some sex right now. And then I'm like, oh, well, it's going to be work. And then we're just going to do that. And
that's like, who has to be on top?
And then I just talk myself out of even making a move or anything. And I'm like, yeah, it's just, let me go to bed.
It feels
let me watch another episode.
Whoever has to be on top is like the loser.
So I was like, it's just not even worth it. Not worth my time right now. And we get into this mindset, then, days and weeks go by and it's like, oh crap, man. And then we're pulling apart, right? And so that is important. And it's also good to note that, we don't talk about this enough, but men and women, we're built different, right? We're built different and we desire different things. So you kind of talked as far as guys working up and doing foreplay and stuff like that. And foreplay is not just right before, so that could be holding hands, that could be going up and gentle touches throughout the day and things like that. And that's kind of what women need. They like that, and that really kind of triggers something for them, like, oh, he desires me, and oh, he and it just kind of leads them up in their mind, and they need that, right? Mm-hmm. And that excites them, that builds them up to where they want to engage with you. Yeah. And guys, we're not. We could honestly, we could care less about that. Let's just get to it. And that's the problem, though, is we approach it in the way that it's almost like a love language, right? It should be called a sex language.
Coin that.
Yeah. Well, maybe we just came up with something, but the thing is we speak our sex language as a guy. It's like, oh, let's just get to it. Let's get down and dirty and have, do this thing, to whereas that doesn't speak to women. Women are like, I need that build up. I need that excitement. I need you to rev the engine a little bit. And so, they're trying to speak in that language and we're trying to speak in another language. That's why it's so important to talk. If not, it gets routine. Nobody's having a lot of fun. As much fun. It's like, yeah, it's all right. And man, that just sucks whenever it gets that way. So that's one of the things. It's not exciting. It's routine.
But we're going to give you at the end, we're going to give you some resources so that this can be exciting.
We want it to be exciting. Yeah. So we're just kind of talking on a few of the things that, have been struggles, that are struggles. Time and exhaustion. Just being tired, not enough time.
Yeah, I hear this one a lot from women, plus, just experiencing it myself. Yeah. I'm sure men do as well, but I know when you are taking care of the kids or you're working all day and then you're coming home and you're cooking and you're helping the kids, take a bath and do their homework and all of that, by the time you're getting ready to lay your head down on the pillow, you don't want to feel like you need more work. And that's where when sex is like part of a chore or work, you're going to avoid it. Who wants to do more work at that hour?
And even being able to communicate with each other, getting intimate with each other, talking or having your talk time, your sexy time or whatever, it's like, I'm just beat. I don't, I know even for me, especially after a lot's going on at work or something, I'm coming home, I'm mentally tapped out. And I'm like, I just want to sit here and just numb out for a while and just go, and so, we experience that as well. And then really the only times that we can have sex whenever we're raising kids and stuff is at nighttime, after they're going to bed. And that can be the problem as well, because we're just beat, we're tired, we're exhausted. And so then it kind of topples onto the routine. We just fall back to what we know. And then it's like, well, is that exciting? I don't know. And I just, it leads me to a story. I was thinking of this and I'm like, should I even share this? I don't know.
Is it us?
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know.
So I remember this, I'm going to share it anyway, because we're getting real and honest, right? And this is just part of the fun. But
I have no idea what he's going to say.
I remember we were probably a year into our marriage. and we had just gotten the kids to where they were sleeping in their rooms and stuff. And we lived in this small 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom house. And everything was just kind of small.
1,100 square foot, if that gives you a...
Yeah. And, it was just tight quarters for us and our big family and sharing a bathroom, but we did it for so many years and it was fine. But I remember us being there. It was one night late at night, and we were going to get a little bow chicka bow wow time.
And that was one of the things I knew he would say today.
And so we're sitting there and we're getting intimate. All of our clothes are off, and we're like, yeah, the kids are in bed. It's dark. We're having our moment, and then all this, we'd lock the door, of course, because that's what you do, but never took into consideration with an older house how doors shift. And so if you've ever experienced that, then when doors shift, that means the door doesn't close all the way. So even though it's locked, it's still not engaged into that door hinge, that door striker. And so, we learned this the hard way. And here we are, newly married, and we're having our time. Kids are in bed. We got the door locked, thinking everything's great. And we're in the heat of the moment, and all of a sudden, our youngest walks in. And I mean, I'm we're new in our marriage. My initial reaction, y'all, I'm serious. It was one of those frightening, like, oh my goodness, I'm caught.
You jumped in the closet.
I jumped up out of the bed and went into the closet and like curdled down, like I'm hiding. And then you kind of covered up and like ushered her back to bed. And I'm like, here I am, step parent, fell in that moment. What did I just do? Why was that my reaction to run and hide?
What we would do is what we call TV time. And so that because the house was small and it was noisy, I mean, you couldn't really make much noise at all without it echoing to other rooms. So we would have TV time. So we would turn the TV on, so it sounded like we were watching Everybody Loves Raymond, but really, we were having our TV time. Our time. And so the TV was on, so the room is lit. The good thing, because she's never said anything to us about it.
She was really young at that time, too.
And she used to have like these, I think they're called like night terrors now that like not nightmares, but like she would just get up like and come in the room like crying, half awake, half asleep. Sometimes, with like needing to go potty or whatever. And so I'm hoping that she really didn't ever.
None of that ever got brought up. So, there we go. Yes. I just felt like that was
we don't know if she's talked about that in therapy or not. But yeah, funny story.
Yeah, funny story. And that's real, right? That's real step family life right there. It's trying to figure all that out.
Because it's one thing if you walk in and see your dad and your mom, but for some reason, like when it's not your biological parent, there's a whole nother level of like icky to it. I don't know.
I couldn't even imagine if that had been them teenage years or something like that, how, devastating
there
or something.
Was a time when I walked into my mom and her boyfriend, and I am still traumatized by that. I sat under the table because I didn't know what that sound was. I was like in 4th grade, and I went and I sat there, and then I was stuck, and so they were doing it, and I was like stuck.
Oh, no.
And then I went into the closet, I crawled out, and I cried the whole next day waiting for someone to come find me in the closet. No one did, and so then I like ran away or something. But it is very traumatizing.
So these are real challenges in the step family right here. But all right, well, we'll be back here in just a minute. We're going to share just a couple more, jump into some tools that will help us overcome these challenges, and then a few resources that we found that worked really good in our marriage to help keep things spicy and fun and exciting. Yeah. So we'll be back here in just a minute.
Blended families can be hard at times, can't they? Have you ever said, I don't feel like me and my spouse are connecting? Or I'm bending over backwards and my stepkid still pushes me away? Or do you feel like your family's doing okay, but you'd like it to be more than okay? You want your family to level up, take it to an even stronger level.
The truth is, we're all looking for more joy and happiness in our lives. So how do we start seeing that in our blended family? Because really, our family is the first place we should truly be enjoying and having the most fun with. So how do you enjoy your blended family? You create more fun opportunities that your family loves doing. These are big things, they're small things, things that cost money, things that don't cost money. But the more fun you have together, the less blended family drama you'll have, which equals more joy and happiness for everyone. Now, you may be saying, yeah, but I don't know how to do that. I don't even know where to start. That's okay. We walk you through 5 fun dates you get to have with your family. These dates help you discover those fun things your family loves doing. You'll walk away with so many more great ideas and have an amazing, easy plan to make it happen and to keep it going. Plus, you get to have a lot of fun discovering all this in the process. We walk you through everything and make it really fun and easy.
So how do you enjoy your blended family? By going on these 5 dates and discovering fun in your stepfamily. You'll be so glad you did. Have more fun together and you'll see less problems. The link to get started on this amazing journey is in the show notes of this episode.
All right, so we talked about it not being excited, just not having the time, being exhausted, differences that can interrupt our sex as well. Just having differences in maybe the way we parent our kids, especially whenever we're coming together. I've done things one way, you've done things another. We're not agreeing on things. And so there's a lot of challenges that come with that. Or maybe I'm upset with you with maybe how, your biological kids have acted towards me, or there's resentment, or there's feeling of rejection, things of that. Yeah. All of these things can put those wedges into where it's like, I'm just not on the same page with you. I'm not wanting to do anything, I'm not wanting to make a move.
People don't want to get intimate with people that they're mad at, right? That's
or frustrated with, or
the last thing they want to do.
Yeah. So, sometimes those are those challenges that we're facing, that if we don't overcome those arguments, if we don't overcome those differences, if we're not constantly communicating about that and saying, okay, hey, babe, let's work together, let's figure this one out, then all we're doing is adding those wedges to where now we're not having sex, which, we have found out the more that we come together and get sexual, the less of those differences we see. And so it's like this opposite, it's kind of like the opposite of what you think. You're sitting there like, well, I don't want anything to do with you right now. I'm mad at you, or I can't even believe you, or whatever. And so, no, we're not gonna, we don't even, I'm turning this way, not even thinking about sex. But if we come together and we just drop clothes and go at it, then it's like, that wasn't really a problem anyways. Hey, you know what? We'll work this out.
Yes.
It's crazy.
Well, and it's not like you use sex as a tool just to avoid your problems. But some of the things that we build up as issues, they're not that big of a deal when we're actually staying connected. A lot of it, the root of it, when you get down to it, is that you are feeling rejected, or you're not feeling loved or prioritized by your spouse. And so then it's just causing even more of a wedge. And when you had said being rejected earlier, it was just reminding me of a conversation we had to have early on in the marriage, because I was very sexually driven in the beginning, but I wanted him to want me. And so I would wait and wait and wait for him to approach me, to come and how you have in the movies where, he's coming, he's ripping my clothes off, or, he just can't keep his hands off of me, and it wasn't happening. And to the point where I'm crying out to friends and stuff. And then we finally had a conversation, and there's just some deeper rooted things from his previous relationship where he would get rejected a lot. And so he just would tell me, I always want it. If you want it, just let me know. And I'm like, well, I want you to want me.
I want you to make a move.
I want you to make a move. And so we had got into this, as long as I was making a move, then we were having a decent amount of sex. But if I didn't, then long spans of time would take place. Yeah. And then as the years progressed and I started having some health issues and stuff as well, which we're going to get into here in a minute, that time frame went a lot more longer. So you weren't initiating it and I wasn't initiating it, and then so sex wasn't happening.
So there were a lot of issues there, and then we were having a lot of differences that, we weren't arguing about things. We just saw things a lot differently. And so I think a lot of that played into it, and then the timing played into it. We were tired, we were exhausted. So, all these things kind of compile into one a lot of the times. And it's not just one issue that we deal with. It's all of this, and it's in different seasons of our lives, we see different things. So differences can be a big thing. And then just like we're talking seasons of life, that's the other thing is sometimes we knew the fall time for us was so busy. The kids that's when they were all in sports and dance and things of that. We're constantly running here, running there. And so just being a parent, no matter what age your kids are, that's hard.
Yeah, it could be that you're a new parent and so you're exhausted and tired, you're breastfeeding, whatever. So you're around the clock kind of thing. And it could be just like what he's saying, that this season of life that your kids are involved in so much, so you're not home at the same time much. It may be a season of life where you have full custody of all of the kids, and so your house is always full, or you might be in a season where all of your kids are gone. Maybe you've gone through some alienation with your kids and they're not home, and you're sad and you're mourning that. And it's just all of these different seasons. Maybe you have a sick parent that you are taking care of all the time. There's so many different things.
Yeah.
You're working nights. I could just the list could go on and on of these different seasons.
And so we're using that excuse as, well, I know we haven't really been focusing or making this a priority. Let's get past this and then we'll work on it. And then what happens is next season hits and it's something totally different. And it's like, you know what? Well, I know this is a priority. We'll work on it after this. And before long, we've done so many after this that, we haven't made it a priority.
Months turn into years of not prioritizing it.
And so it's just that reminder of this is important to our marriage. If we want our marriage to work, we got to make this a priority. So, just being parents and being different seasons of life. And the last one we want to talk about before we get into the tools and resources is health. Just having, our physical health, our mental health, things of that can all hinder, a sex life or an intimacy life.
Yeah, and I think it's on different levels as well. Like early on in the beginning, just health as far as not being my healthiest self. And so the insecurity that goes along with that for a woman's body, and you don't want to expose yourself in that way and be vulnerable in that way because you don't feel sexy. So you assume your spouse does not think you're sexy either, especially if they're like not telling you, hey, I think your body is sexy, then you kind of shy away from that. So being able to just take that initiative, for one, to be healthy, just so that you are at your best self, not just to have like 6-pack abs and, like what you consider a model body, but to get to a place where you love your body and you are taking care of it, but also like physically eating right and exercising so that you can be the one on top or you can be in a certain position and your bones aren't like aching tremendously, right?
No, and that is important. If we're talking on the physical aspect of it, I know for myself, whenever I am exercising and eating right and stuff like that, I feel better physically, and whenever I'm doing that, I like the results I get in the mirror, and I approach our marriage that way, like, hey, babe, check me out. You come with more confidence in that. And, for one, we're helping ourselves out, and we're helping our kids out because, we're trying to take care of ourselves and be there a long time for them. And then we're helping our wives out. I'm trying to be a good looking guy for you, and I want to be that for you. I don't want you to get, just my leftovers or my laziness or whatever, I want you to have my best self that I can be. And so whenever we all go through seasons of that, I find a lot of times where I'm just like, ugh, and I fall out of routine, and then I feel just, ugh, and so that's, it leads me to where I don't want to initiate a lot more as well and stuff like that. So,
and then you can, there's so many. I mean, I feel like this episode could really be 2 parts, so we're trying to like speed through some of these. But even like because of Randall's personality and how he'll take care of himself, if I have fallen off the wagon and I don't feel that way, then all I think of is that he sees me and all of my flaws. I remember like crying to him, like, I don't know, summertime or something not long ago. Like, I know all you see is my like ugliness and all the imperfections. And he's like, no, I don't. And I was like, you have to, because I know your personality and I know what you're thinking. And so him having to really speak into that and be like, I'm sorry that I haven't been speaking, just more kindly. Like, not that he was saying things negative. It's just that he wasn't hitting that security button that I needed and making me feel like I was desired and sexy and all of that. And so it is hard. Like, when I see him working out, and if I'm not working out, then I feel like I'm like not bringing all of my best self to the table.
Yeah, so there are so many things as far as just the physical aspect of our health. And then, we take it on the flip side. Maybe there was an ailment that happened. And I know that we kind of joke, and we've heard this so many times that, whenever you get older, it's hell because your body just does this and does that. And, as young whippersnappers, we're like, yeah, that's not going to be us. It's not going to be me. And,
we're taking care of ourselves.
I always had my dad tell me, he's like, well, when you turn 40, this is going to happen. And I'm like, that's not going to be me. And so that's my motivation. I'm in there lifting weights going, not me. It's not me. I'm not going to be that. And then I'll hit seasons to where, just get the busyness of life. And then I'm not working out. And, I'll go months without, going up into the workout room or something like that. And I start seeing it now, to whereas whenever I was 20 years old, I'm like, I could go a year without working out and I still had my abs and stuff like that. But now it's like, no, it's like you see it, you feel it. And I'm like, oh my goodness. And then it seems like it's harder to get back into trying to work out or get a routine because now you're trying to fight it's just it's hard, and the older you get, what we're noticing is now it's more other things. You're in the doctors and the specialists a whole lot more. And we're looking at each other going, oh my goodness, what in the world? Like, now our bodies are like not even giving us that ability. Even if you do stay healthy, you still have things that happen the older you get. And, even I've seen younger people, in their 20s and 30s still dealing with health issues that are just, genetic or whatever. Yeah. And it just kind of shuts you down to where you can't. And, so those are other things.
Yeah, and it's very frustrating because that's one of the things that I struggle with is it's called Sjogren's. And so it's an autoimmune, but the autoimmunes are like all over the place now. And some of that comes along with it is that low sex drive. And so what I thought just went from me like, like I'm not really wanting it. Like, no, this is my body like acting a certain way. And so then realizing, oh, you can take medicine for that. And so then I'll take medicine and everything will get better and I'll be working out and, things are getting okay. And then I convince myself I don't need the medicine anymore because I don't want to be someone that takes medicine on a regular basis. And so I'll get off of it. And then here we go. A week turns into 3 weeks into a month. And then it's like, oh, I haven't initiated this at all, but my body doesn't want it. And so the stuff we're going to share here in a minute are things, and I wanted to share this because even if you're to the point where you're having a health issue, now I know some of them may be to a point where these things may not necessarily work for you, but if you have any situation like I have, Randall's gone through certain things with his body too, where it just doesn't do what we want it to do. We're like, it makes you insecure and then you get inside your head. And then when you're in your head, you're not doing, you're not performing. It's just,
yeah, it's all kinds of issues that it snowballs.
It spirals. And then you're like, body, just
be good.
Just do it. Participate with us right now. And so these are things that we have to be very actively pursuing. And so we started searching and seeking out. So I think this is a good segue into this next part. Like, if you find yourself with any of these reasons or excuses, we had to be like, okay, enough is enough. We are going to do something about it. And so we stumbled across our first resource.
Yeah, so before we get into the resources, just kind of some of the tools that have helped us, to where this isn't a problem, to where this isn't a thing in our life is, first off, planning. Planning is a big thing, and we've heard this numerous times. You got to plan that intimacy time. If you're really struggling with this, put it on the calendar, put it on your phones, or put reminders. But on Friday nights, kids go down at this time, we're doing it. And
then, it sounds silly that you have to plan it, but sometimes, hey.
if
to.
you don't plan, then it doesn't happen a lot of times. So, that's one thing that we found, that if we can plan it in the week, then we're more able to have it. And now it's not the guessing of, are they going to initiate? Do I have to initiate? What's it going to take? Now we both know, hey, it's go time. And then we can have fun with that. Like, hey, tomorrow night.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it.
And so now you're looking forward to it because you know what's going to happen. You're not guessing, and you've talked, you planned, and y'all can prepare that way. It helps you to prepare. And then, that's on a weekly basis. If you're not looking at your calendars weekly together as far as activities and what you're doing throughout the week, that's, I highly suggest you do that first, but add sex and intimacy into that, make that a thing that you are planning, and then trying to do a yearly thing, do a getaway, at least a year. Make your anniversary something special. This is something we've always tried to do for us, is our anniversary. We try to get away, and it's just me and her. We try to go out of the house if we can. There's been many years we couldn't.
We did a staycation, sent the kids away, but we stayed here.
Right, but we've always made that really important to where, this is our time. We're going to turn that into a really fun weekend. And that's just going to be one to where, we may not leave the place that we're at or, whatever, but, we're just going to make that our time. So, planning is a big key. And then the next thing is we talk about intimacy. Intimacy always leads to a good sex life. And this is one thing a little harder for guys, but, the more we can talk about our emotions, the more we can share with each other, the more we connect, and as you're having your weekly times and stuff like that, to where it's not just about sex, but it is about communicating and sharing your innermost desires and thoughts and things like that. And, whenever you are connecting like that, it turns you on and it makes you want to, add the sexual, physical pleasures to that. So intimacy, talking and sharing is so important. And then, the last thing is looking for podcasts and accounts to follow. That's been a really big thing, I think, for us, is whenever we found, hey, there are things out there that are talking on this, that we're, kind of hitting some of these problems and some of these issues. And it's like, whoa, okay, cool. But I think we had stumbled on now we're kind of getting into resources, because that really flows into these resources. But there are a lot of these accounts that you can follow, and we're going to share a couple here in a minute. But they actually have challenges and things like that. Yeah. And these challenges are powerful. These will get you out of doing the normal thing. It'll help you spice things up, but then you don't have to come up with the stuff. It's already there for you. Like we did this one 30-day challenge. I think that's what kicked us off. Now, what really did is we heard, was that Rachel and Dave? I think that's what really stirred us up, is whenever Rachel Hollis and Dave, back whenever we're following their podcast, years back whenever they were doing that. But they had talked about their sexy September or something like that or something. Yeah. And we were like, what? They're talking about sex and marriage? What? And so we were just intrigued, and we both listened to it differently at different times. And it was like, oh my goodness, it hit us. And it's like, why don't we make this an important thing? And that's what really kind of stirred us to dive into.
Yeah, we started looking into more resources.
Well, what makes a healthy sexual life and marriage look like? And so, that's what was big for us, and that's what led us to where, now we want to talk about stuff like that as well. We want to share and stuff, especially in step families. We have even more challenges we're trying to overcome in this.
And when you're listening to these things and you're putting it so whatever platform that you use for social media, if you go and you follow these accounts and they're talking about it on a regular basis. Some of them are like marriage accounts, but also talk about sex. But some of them are like sex focused. Some of it's funny because it's the stuff. Like I know one of the resources we're going to share here in a minute. This last week, they were talking about that walk afterwards because you got to go get cleaned up, right? And it's like this little jiggle you have to do to try to not make a mess. And these are real life issues that are happening, but we all keep it to ourselves. And I don't know why we do. We just feel like it's such
it's personal, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, and I think some of those we should, but there should be resources out there to help us, right? Not that we all have to go, there's going to be certain people that feel like, hey, I can share on this. And then there are going to be be probably the majority of us are just like, I need this resource.
Yes.
I need to be able to receive this just for me and my spouse, to where we can laugh and know, hey, we're not alone in this, and but then get some good tips and tools and tricks and things like that help us in our privacy of our bedroom, right? So there's going to be a small group out there that are able to share, and then most of us, we're just receiving and taking it and running and just going like that. And that's why it's important to be able to connect with some of these accounts, but we also want to watch the accounts that we're connecting with and make sure that they are some of them, like one we'll share here in a minute, they're not necessarily Christian, or maybe they are, but none of that's talked about, right?
Yeah.
And so you have to really weigh to what's healthy in our marriage. Some people believe in certain things, like some believe in pornography and things like that, and we know as Christians that's not a good thing, that's not a healthy thing. So if I'm listening to an account, we have to be able to discern what's healthy for us in our faith. And we might pick stuff out of it that, oh, that's good. Yeah, doesn't.
We're not going to bring a third person into our
right. That doesn't line
bed,
up to our
that kind of
beliefs
stuff,
and stuff like that. So some of it you have to filter through and just be completely communicating and really, what's going to be healthy for your marriage and the way you feel God's calling y'all's marriage to be. So, but yeah, there's so many things, but that led us into a 30-day challenge that we did that was like, oh my goodness. And basically this was just a simple thing where they send an email a day and it gave you 2 different options of a challenge for y'all to do. And so within 30 days, every day you're doing something different together, and it just spices things up. It gets you out of that norm, and then it gets y'all connecting in a new way, talking about new things, trying new things, and seeing what you like and what you don't.
Yeah. The cool thing about those is some of them are maybe things that you kind of secretly wanted to do, but you feel awkward like trying to initiate that. And so it gives you this like free pass of like, oh, it's telling you to try it. And now it's like, yes. And then there's some things that's like, I never even thought about that before. And so you're just trying these different things. And I mean, there's been plenty of both of those situations that were like, oh yeah. And then there's been some things that's like, yeah, that wasn't for me.
Yeah, so that worked really. That kind of dove us into diving even deeper into this. So kind of sharing some of the resources, right? So kind of what that one that we were talking about. That's Vanessa and Xander Marin, yeah, I'm saying that right. Marin, I'm sorry. And we started following them. They had a 30-day sex challenge, but, kind of with them, depending on you and your faith and your beliefs, you filter what, works for you and your marriage. And, that was just something at that time worked really good. They've got a podcast called Pillow Talks, and that they talk on some of these topics. She's a sex therapist, and he's just a dude. He's just the husband that kind of brings that other side of it, and they just have really good dynamics. They've kind of blown up.
Yeah.
They've done really well. But that's one that we have found, and Intimately Us. That's a app. So, well, what that is it's Get Your Marriage On. And this one, they are Christian. This is a Christian faith-based platform. They have apps that you can download called Intimately Us, and they've got another app that. But you check them out.
Just Between Us. I
think
it's called.
Yeah, and basically there's way it helps y'all to create that intimacy, and it gives you things to talk about and stuff. So the apps are so powerful, but then they've got a fun side of that as well, and that's games. So you can get these games that we found through several places that are like, oh, this is fun. We can order a game that's built for marriages to bring us closer and to have more sex and stuff like that, and have fun doing that. Man, what? So that's out there. And then they Get Your Marriage On also does retreats. So they do couples retreats and things like that. So that's even another thing you could, try depending on where you're at.
Yeah, and just on the app, the Intimately Us, for one, it is free. There is a a charged version of it, but you get so much with the free version that you probably would take forever to get to the point where you're like, okay, I need, I want to pay to unlock some of these other things. It has date ideas, like sexy date ideas, like the game stuff that he was talking about. It has conversation starters. It has little like text things to send to each other. It has just blog, like written things about like some of the hard like sex issues, and just so much. And the thing I love about it is it'll send you a daily like reminder, and it might be something intimate like text your spouse and tell them that you're thinking of them right now, or it could be something like tonight try this position kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it just gives you and you can like skip that one if you don't want to do that one, and maybe because you can't because of time or whatever that day, until you find one that's like, okay, I can do this one today. But you and your spouse are on the same app, and you're like earning points and stuff as well as you're doing some of these things. So
yeah,
it's
they
a really good
they have
resource.
encrypted ways to where you and both of your accounts are tied together, and it's all very safe and very secure.
And it even has a calendar on it if you're wanting to schedule that sexy time.
Yeah, so that's powerful, and what he's doing over there is just phenomenal. So yeah, get your marriage on. That's one huge one to follow. They're, like we said, they're Christian based, and so a lot of these we'll put links and stuff down that way you can check them out. And then the third one that we dove into was the Adventure Challenge. The Adventure Challenge, if you haven't heard about Adventure Challenge, it's this book that you get with, I think it's like 30 dates in there, and they're all scratch offs. Now, they have an in bed edition, and we've actually done a podcast on the in bed edition. Yeah. And this one is powerful because it is that intimacy thing. You and your spouse are scratching off to find out what you're going to do on that date. And that one you can spread out, you can do a date a week, a date a month, like that. You can take all these resources and mix and mingle and just really spice things up.
It's just that anticipation and surprise of what is it going to be when you scratch it off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So these resources are powerful. They really are. And, we're finding more and more of them. And what we found though, is if we're not using things like this, then we just fall back into it's not exciting. It's just, it becomes just routine. We don't have time. We don't have this. But this helps us in a marriage to really build that expectation, or not expectation, but excitement. It keeps that fire lit. It keeps us connecting. And that's really what we're wanting in our marriage. For one, we need this. We need that connection. But then it helps us to parent together. It helps us to get through the blended family challenges together. We're more on the same page together now, and instead of us using that as a weapon against each other, we're using it as a tool to keep us together. Yeah. And that's the power and the beauty in it.
Yeah, and then just a couple other things just as tools or resources that I wanted to share is that take care of yourself. We talked about the health issues, go to the doctor, get checked out. I am like the world's worst, and Randall has to stay on me of not going to the doctor because I don't want to spend the money or don't feel like, I have time to do it. But do that. Don't let it keep lingering and that be an excuse. So, not getting healthy and exercising so that you are, superstar model, whatever, Victoria's Secret model, but that you're doing it so that your body is functioning the way that it is meant to. And so making that a priority too. And then the last thing I want to say is don't be afraid to pray about this.
Yeah.
Like he created you like this. There's many times when Randall's not home, nobody's home, and that I will go in our bedroom and I will pray over our bed. I will pray over our sex life and our intimacy and that we would be attracted to each other. So don't think like, oh, this is the subject, like God don't want to hear from me and sex. No.
Or it's embarrassing. Yes. Whenever we sit there and we say sex, or we're whispering, we're talking about sex.
That's how I started out talking about sex. I'm like, sex.
That word.
But God wants to hear from you, so don't be afraid to invite him into the conversation.
Yeah. So good stuff. Hard, I was saying harsh topic, but hard topic to, that we need to talk more about, and I think we just need to be able to relate more, and we need to talk about it with each other so much more. But we need to know how, right? Because we don't know how to do this. And that's where these resources, episodes like this, are just really powerful to help speak life into your marriage and speak life into your intimacy. And that way you have a fruitful marriage and you see the blessings and everything from it. But good stuff. So, boom, go do it. Go do it.
Like literally
just go do it
right now. Oh, and I don't think we covered that. We've talked about it before, but if you're at a place where you can have day sex instead of night sex.
Oh, man.
That's been a game changer. We both.
Good stuff.
Yeah, so just do it during the day. You don't have to wait for night as long as your kids aren't,
Maybe a morning thing, like right when you wake up or something, and, just start the day off right. So, there you go.
Apparently that's a thing for men.
there are some tips. There was a whole lot of stuff in this episode. You might have to go re-listen to it and grab some of these. We'll put a lot of the links in the show notes. That way you can check them out and just, go have fun. So listen, we love you, and we will see you on the next episode. Later, guys.
Bye, guys. Thanks for joining us today. We hope this episode has been a blessing and encouraged your family journey.
Make sure you stay connected with us and join our weekly Blended Family newsletter. We send an email out every Friday morning full of support and encouragement.
And when you join, we also want to give you a free gift. So go get yours today. The link is in the show notes below.
Have an amazing day. Remember to enjoy the journey with your blended family, and we'll see you on the next episode.